The time by Caracas is 6 p.m. and this is CBX Business News. The business news headlines are brought to you by QMax Wealth Management, making more possible. Alpart Refinery Revival, Trinidad's oil expansion, and steady global growth. Good evening and welcome to CBX Business News for Wednesday, July 8, 2026. I'm Rashel Moncrieffe. Thanks for joining us. Coming up, the government says Chinese company Gisco will invest approximately $490 million in the first phase of a two-phase modernization program to reopen the Alpart alumina refinery. Also ahead, Trinidad targets 74,600 barrels of oil per day by 2029 as output rebounds. And later, the International Monetary Fund expects the global economy to remain on a steady growth path in 2026, with faster expansion projected for 2027 despite ongoing geopolitical risk. Stay with us as we unpack these stories and more right after the break.
Coming along well.
Thanks, man. You know, it's a long time I've been working at it.
I can see that. I saw your mail by the gate, so I'll pick it up for you. But tell me something. Why are you still receiving dividend checks by mail?
What do you mean about that?
You need to give JCST a mandate.
You know, me hear about the mandate them. I'm going over there right now.
A mandate means giving instructions to the Jamaica Central Securities Depository Limited, JCSD, relating to the handling of your dividend or interest payment. There are three types of mandates. The first is a bank mandate. The second is a hold mandate. Lastly, we have what we call a third-party mandate, with which the investor may wish to send their dividend or interest to someone other than the parties on their account or institution of their choice.
The local news is brought to you by Derrimon Trading, better from the start. The Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances, tease the senses, and Pulse Investments. Welcome back to CBX Business News. We begin with news from Jamaica's mining sector. Jamaica's mining sector is poised for a major boost after Chinese-owned Gisco committed $490 million to the first phase of a two-phase modernization program for the Alpart alumina refinery in St. Elizabeth. Construction activities should begin before the end of 2026 with the objective for an official launch before June 2027. Speaking in Parliament on Tuesday, Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining Minister Floyd Green says talks with GISCO executives and Chinese officials have culminated in the company's commitment to restart the long-idled Alpart operation.
Madam Speaker, arising from those engagements, GISCO has now written to me and has confirmed that following our visit and its extensive feasibility process, it will proceed with a two-phase modernization program for the Alpart refinery. Madam Speaker, the objective is to restore Alpart as a modern, competitive operation and a major player in global alumina production. GISCO's redevelopment plan is designed to return the refinery to a production capacity of approximately 2 million tons of alumina annually, implemented in two phases, with phase 1 targeting 1 million tons per year and phase 2 adding a further 1 million tons.
The government says the project represents far more than the reopening of a refinery, describing it as a catalyst for jobs, investment, and renewed economic growth in Jamaica.
Madam Speaker, this government made a commitment to the people of Jamaica that we would pursue every avenue to see Alpart return to operation. We went to China, we engaged decision makers, we secured a clear path forward, and we are closer now more than ever before to seeing the reopening of Alpart, to once again drive growth, jobs, and opportunity for our people.
That was Jamaica's Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining, Floyd Green. Jamaica's financial safety net for bank depositors has reached a record high. The Deposit Insurance Fund grew 12.2% to $53.3 billion at the end of 2025, an increase of nearly $6 billion compared with the previous year. According to the latest Economic and Social Survey, the fund now stands at 8.6% of all insured deposits, meeting the Jamaica Deposit Insurance Corporation's target reserve ratio. The fund provides protection to depositors if an insured financial institution fails. Under the current scheme, deposits of up to $1.2 million per depositor per insured institution are covered, with the report showing that 96.4% of all deposit accounts are fully protected. The survey also highlights the continued strength of Jamaica's banking sector, with total deposits rising to $2.2 trillion and industry assets reaching $3.1 trillion. The Bank of Jamaica says the financial system remained stable throughout 2025 despite Hurricane Melissa and ongoing global uncertainty, with outgoing Governor Richard Biles saying the sector is expected to remain resilient, supported by strong regulation, robust capital buffers, and ample liquidity. Jamaica has received international recognition from the World Bank Group for strengthening one of the country's most valuable economic assets, its people. The country has been named a human capital champion after outperforming the Latin America and Caribbean average on the World Bank's Human Capital Index Plus, a measure that assesses how effectively countries develop a productive workforce through investments in education, health, and employment. Jamaica recorded a Human Capital Index Plus score of 200 out of 325, with employment outcomes exceeding the regional average and health indicators remaining in line with regional performance. The country now joins Kenya and Kyrgyzstan Republic and Vietnam among a select group of economies recognized for achieving strong human capital outcomes relative to their income levels. Finance Minister Favour Williams says the award reflects years of investment in health, education, and workforce development, noting that building a skilled and productive labor force remains central to Jamaica's strategy for achieving inclusive and sustainable economic growth. Meanwhile, World Bank Caribbean Director Lilia Burunshik says Jamaica's progress in employment, on-the-job learning, and tertiary education completion has created a strong foundation for future economic expansion, while highlighting the need for continued investment in early childhood development, education, and labor market reforms. Jamaica Stock Exchange listed Productive Business Solutions, PBS, has secured a major long-term contract to expand its digital services business in Central America. The company has signed a 10-year, 8-figure US dollar agreement with an international bank to modernize its data and analytics infrastructure. While the client was not identified, PBS says the contract is valued at no less than $10 million US dollars. Under the deal, PBS will implement next-generation data platforms, modernize the bank's enterprise data warehouse, strengthen disaster recovery capabilities, and deploy artificial intelligence solutions to enhance business operations. PBS says the agreement reinforces its strategy of expanding high-value digital services across the region and strengthens its position as a long-term technology partner for the financial services industry. The announcement also comes as the company continues to pursue growth following a challenging 2025. We go now to updates from the JSE. In Wednesday's trading session, the JSE market activity resulted in the trading of 106 stocks, of which 39 advanced, 50 declined, and 17 traded firm. Leading the winners are Productive Business Solution USD Ordinary Shares, R.A. Williams Distributors, One-on-One Educational Services, and A.S. Bryden & Sons Holdings 6% Class A preference share. While leading the losers are Cygnus Real Estate Finance USD, JFP Limited, MFS Capital Partners, and EduFocal. The main index advanced by 1,325.04 points to close at 360,910.26 points. The junior market index declined by 38.62 points to close at 3,048 points. It's time for the Market Education feature, brought to you by CARICRIS, Regional Ratings, Global Standards. In today's Market Education feature, we will be talking about quotas. A quota is a government-imposed limit on the quantity or value of goods that can be imported or exported over a set period. Quotas are used to manage trade, protect domestic industries, and regulate the flow of goods, often to support local producers or address safety, quality, and standards concerns. As a form of protectionist policy, quotas help shield domestic industries from foreign competition. That was the Market Education feature, brought to you by CARICRIS, Regional Ratings, Global Standards. And that's it for the local news segment. Please stay with us. The regional news is up next. By Derrimon Trading, better from the start. The Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances, tease the senses, and Pulse Investments.
Plan for the worst and hope for the best. Turning around the Jamaica Lottery Company in 1990 from a company that was bankrupt to being Jamaica's first successful gaming operation. Went into manufacturing, which gave me cancer. My belief. To really have screwed up, I've managed to survive and to make a mark.
Welcome back. And now for the regional business news. CARICOM is seeking to position reparatory justice as a driver of regional development arguing that future reparations should finance investments in critical sectors such as healthcare, education, and digital transformation. The proposal was outlined during a CARICOM Reparations Forum held in St. Lucia on Monday. Speaking during the forum, chair of the CARICOM Reparations Commission, Professor Hilary Beckles, says the region's reparations agenda is centered on closing development gaps created by slavery and colonialism.
Our 10-point plan is really a reparatory justice strategy built around social and economic development. We want development for our people based on reparatory justice. We want better healthcare. We want better schools. We want digital transformation. We want to see an investment in our people who have a right to it, and we will define all of that as reparatory justice.
Beckles says the movement has entered a new phase, with countries now focusing on how reparatory justice should be negotiated and implemented to meet their own development priorities.
I was in the British Parliament last week, and colleagues were saying to me that the mood in the British Parliament now is, this reparations thing is galloping. So we should try and make a deal now before it gets worse. So you have different strains of thought, okay? Now, what we do know is that every community in the global African world should determine what they want out of this reparation discourse. There is no mechanical mechanism. We've written the 10-point plan in such a way as to give every community, whether it's Colombia, Brazil, CARICOM, the US, we've given every community in global Africa an opportunity to say the 10-point plan is our framework, but we will domesticate it and apply it to our local situation as needed.
That was chair of the CARICOM Reparations Commission, Professor Hilary Beckles. Trinidad and Tobago is forecasting a major turnaround in its oil industry, with production expected to climb nearly 30% over the next 3 years as government and energy companies ramp up investment in mature oil fields. Energy Minister Dr. Rudal Munilal says oil production is projected to rise from 57,300 barrels per day in 2026 to 62,100 barrels per day in 2027, before reaching 74,600 barrels in 2029. The increase of more than 17,000 barrels per day would mark a significant reversal after years of declining output. Munilal says the recovery will be driven by new exploration, redevelopment of mature oil fields, and expanded activity by state-owned Heritage Petroleum.
Outlook for the period 2027 to 2029 shows meaningful recovery. On a fiscal year basis, forecasted production is projected to increase from 57,300 barrels per day in fiscal 2026 to approximately 62,100 barrels per day in fiscal year 2027. This we project to climb to 74,600 barrels per day in fiscal 2029.
The minister says the projected increase in oil production is underpinned by a sharp rise in energy investment, reflecting growing confidence in the sector's outlook.
I am pleased to inform you that the estimated energy sector expenditure over the period 2025 to 2027, 2025 to 2027 is United States dollars 2.7 billion per annum, compared to 1.7 billion per annum in the preceding 3-year period. This is testament to a commitment to the energy sector by companies operating in Trinidad and Tobago, and to the opportunities that arise based on our energy policies.
That was Trinidad and Tobago's Energy Minister, Dr. Rudal Munilal. Guyana has retained its position among the world's high-income economies, reinforcing its rapid economic transformation. The World Bank's latest classifications place Guyana in the high-income category, reserved for countries with a gross national income or GNI per capita of $14,375 or more. Jamaica remains an upper-middle income economy, a category that includes countries with a GNI per capita ranging from $4,636 to $14,375. The annual rankings, which cover 218 economies, are widely used by governments, investors, and international financial institutions to assess economic development and inform lending and investment decisions. The latest classifications will remain in effect until June 2027. Guyana first entered the high-income category following an unprecedented surge in economic growth fueled by offshore oil production and has now retained that status in the latest assessment. Guyana remains one of the Caribbean's high-income economies, alongside Antigua and Barbuda, the Bahamas, Barbados, St. Kitts and Nevis, and Trinidad and Tobago. It's now time for news from the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 20 securities, of which 7 advanced, 6 declined, and 7 traded firm. Today's winners are the West Indian Tobacco Company, NCB Financial Group, National Flour Mills, and National Enterprises, while leading the losers are Massey Holdings, Unilever Caribbean, and Merchant Bank and CIBC Caribbean Bank. Trading activity resulted in the following movements. The All TNT Index declined by 2.09 points to close at 1,442.08. The Composite Index advanced by 0.35 points to close at 997.82. The Cross-Listed Index advanced by 0.43 points to close at 73.10. The SME Index advanced by 0.15 points to close at 79.43. And we take a short break, but please do stay with us. The international news segment is up next.
It's feeling so good right now. Feeling so good right now. Yeah, yeah. It's feeling so good right now. Feeling so good right now. Yeah, yeah. It's feeling so good right now. Don't never, ever, ever wanna calm down. Oh, no, no. Yeah, yeah.
I'm trading stocks to achieve my financial goals.
I'm also trading stocks to achieve my financial goals.
Start a conversation with the Jamaica Stock Exchange.
Check jamstockx.com for information and a list of registered stockbrokers. You can also call the Jamaica Stock Exchange at 876-967-3271 for information on how to begin. I am achieving my financial goals.
I'm achieving my financial goals.
Welcome back. In international news, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, left its global growth forecast for 2026 broadly unchanged at 3% in its July 2026 World Economic Outlook, just 0.1 percentage point below its July projection, citing the global economy's resilience in the face of the Iran conflict and continued strength in AI-driven investment. The fund raised its 2027 global growth forecast to 3.4% from 3.2% 3.2%. Even so, it cautioned that downside risks remain significant, noting that the broader economic effects of heightened geopolitical tensions, including renewed U.S.-Iran strikes, could take longer to emerge. Global headline inflation is now projected to increase to 4.7% in 2026 from 4.1% in 2025 before easing to 3.9% in 2027. Among major economies, the IMF expects the U.S. economy to grow by 2.3% in 2026 and 2.2% in 2027, while China's economy is forecast to expand by 4.6% in 2026 and 4.1% in 2027. India is projected to remain the fastest growing major economy, with growth of 6.4% in 2026 and 6.7% in 2027. Meanwhile, Japan is expected to grow by 0.6% in 2026 and 0.7% in 2027, the Eurozone by 0.9% and 1.2%, and the UK by 1% and 1.3% over the same period. Colombia's exports increased 19.2% year-on-year to USD 5.19 billion in May 2026, accelerating from an 11.7% rise in April. The strong performance was primarily driven by a 33.3% jump in fuel and mining exports, supported by a 32.4% increase in shipments of petroleum and petroleum products. Exports of agricultural goods, food and beverages rose modestly by 0.7%, aided by higher sales of cut flowers and foliage, which climbed 24.9%, as well as coffee extracts, essences, and concentrates, which surged 89.2%. Manufactured exports edged up 0.2%, with growth led by chemicals and related products 8% and machinery and transport equipment 12.6%. Exports from other sectors soared 67%, largely reflecting a sharp increase in non-monetary gold shipments. Despite the overall rise in export earnings, crude oil export volumes fell 18.1% from a year earlier to 11.4 million barrels. And finally, the French current account deficit narrowed to a seasonally adjusted 100 million euros in May of 2026 from a revised 600 million in the previous month, marking the lowest gap in the last 4 months. The services account surplus widened to 6.4 billion euros from 4.6 billion in April, lifted by a 1 billion increase in exports of professional and management consulting services, research and development, as well as technical services to 1.8 billion. In turn, the goods account gap widened to 5.5 billion euros from 4 billion as the trade balance, when excluding energy, swung to a deficit of 1.3 billion from a surplus of 0.6 billion euros. The energy goods account was at a sharp deficit of 4.2 billion euros as the war in the Middle East maintained the elevated prices of fuel imports. And that's it for the international segment of the newscast. The news recap is coming up on the other side of the break.
This project marks the celebration of our 30th Hall of Fame and aims to highlight the achievements, challenges, and invaluable lessons of those who have shaped and are shaping the future of our economy. Our aim is to celebrate the voices and stories of 30 remarkable leaders in Jamaica's private sector. Join us as we explore these narratives of resilience, leadership, and vision.
And now to recap our top stories. In the local news, GISCO set to revive operations at Alpart Alumina Refinery. Regionally, Trinidad targets 74,600 barrels of oil per day by 2029. And internationally, IMF keeps 2026 global growth forecast steady. Those were the stories making today's CBX Evening News. On behalf of the entire production team, I'm Rashel Moncrieffe. Thanks for watching CBX, your region, your business, your source.
I'm Jared, sales trainer and LinkedIn coach, and you are watching